6 months after the Battle of Seoul, Ambassador Elena Vasquez stood once again in the Hall of Voices. But this time, everything was different. She did not stand alone in the center of the chamber, small and humble before her alien judges. Instead, she stood at the head of a delegation of 50 human officials, all of them wearing the new black and gold uniforms of the United Earth Government. And behind her ship, visible through the great crystal windows of the Council Station, floated a fleet of 2,000 human warships. The Council members stared down at her from their platforms, and Elena was pleased to see fear in their alien eyes. The same beings who had dismissed her so casually 6 months ago now watched her with the nervous attention of prey animals, who had suddenly realized they were not at the top of the food chain. Eye Arbiter Gentle rose to address her, his chitinous body clicking with barely suppressed anxiety. "Ambassador Vasquez," he began, his translated voice trembling slightly, "the Galactic Council wishes to express its deep regret regarding the unfortunate misunderstanding that led to recent hostilities." Elena laughed, and the sound echoed through the chamber like a slap. "Misunderstanding?" she repeated. "You voted to destroy our species. You sent 3,000 warships to enslave or exterminate us. You spoke of humanity as dangerous animals that needed to be put down. And now you call it a misunderstanding?" Gentle's compound eyes darted nervously to the fleet visible through the windows. "Surely we can discuss this matter in a spirit of mutual cooperation," he said, his voice almost pleading. "The Council is prepared to offer Earthful protected status, along with significant trade benefits and technology sharing agreements." Elena shook her head slowly. "You had your chance to offer us friendship. You chose to offer us extinction instead. So no, Arbiter, we are not here to accept your generous offer. We are here to deliver our terms." The chamber erupted in outraged chittering and growling and humming as the 12 species expressed their disbelief. Krath the Torvan rose from his platform, his scales flushed dark with anger. "You dare to dictate terms to civilizations a million years your elder?" he roared. "Your little victory has made you arrogant, human. We will simply summon the full military might of the Galactic Compact and crush your pathetic species once and for all." Elena smiled, and it was the same smile she had worn 6 months ago when the first invasion fleet arrived. "I was hoping you would say something like that," she said. "Marcus, if you would please activate the demonstration." Marcus Chen, standing beside her, pressed a button on his wrist computer. Throughout the chamber, holographic displays flickered to life, showing real-time images from across the galaxy. Valkyrie shipyards, Torvan military bases, Dramuth research stations, all 12 homeworlds of the Council species. And at each location, the display showed small devices attached to critical infrastructure, devices that pulsed with a soft red light. "While your council has been debating how to respond to your defeat," Elena explained calmly, "human operatives have infiltrated every major power station, communication hub, and military facility across your 12 homeworlds. Those devices you see are quantum-linked EMP generators. One signal from me, and your civilizations return to the pre-industrial age." The chamber fell absolutely silent. Gentle stared at the displays, his mandibles hanging open in shock. "That is not possible. Our security systems are the most advanced in the galaxy. No primitive species could have bypassed them." "And yet we did," Elena said. "Because you made the same mistake everyone makes when they underestimate humanity. You assume that because we are young, we must also be stupid. You never considered that a species capable of building 800 warships in 12 days might also be capable of developing stealth technology you have never seen." She stepped forward, her eyes sweeping across the council members. "Here are our terms. First, Earth will receive immediate and permanent membership in the Galactic Council, with full voting rights equal to any other species. Second, All restrictions on human space travel and colonization are lifted immediately. Third, Article 7 of the Galactic Compact, the one that allows for preemptive neutralization of emerging species, is dissolved effective immediately. No species will ever again face extinction simply for being different. The council members looked at each other in desperation, silently debating what to do. Krath leaned forward, his voice dripping with venom. "And if we refuse?" Elena turned to face him directly. "Then I give the signal. Your civilizations collapse, and humanity builds a new galactic order on the ruins. We would prefer not to do this. We did not come here seeking conquest. But make no mistake, we will do whatever is necessary to ensure our survival and our freedom." The silence stretched on for what felt like forever. Finally, Gentol spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Council accepts your terms." One by one, the other species signaled their agreement, even Krath, whose hatred burned in his eyes, but who was not foolish enough to sacrifice his entire civilization for pride. Elena nodded in satisfaction. "Then it is done. Humanity takes its place among the stars, not as servants or subjects, but as equals. And perhaps, in time, as friends." She turned to leave, but Gentol called out to her. "Ambassador, wait. I must know. What would you have done if we had simply accepted your original petition? If we had voted to welcome humanity instead of trying to destroy you?" Elena paused and looked back at the ancients insectoid. "We would have been good neighbors," she said softly. "We would have shared our art and our music and our stories. We would have learned from your wisdom and contributed our creativity. We would have built something beautiful together, a true partnership between old and young, between different and familiar. And instead," Gentol asked, his voice heavy with regret. Elena's expression hardened. "Instead, you taught us that the universe respects only strength. You taught us that kindness is seen as weakness. You taught us that we must be feared if we wish to survive. That lesson cost you everything." She turned away and began walking toward the exit, her delegation falling into step behind her. "We are fast learners," she said over her shoulder. "Remember that, the next time you think about underestimating humanity." The crystal doors closed behind her, leaving the council in stunned silence. Outside, Elena walked to the viewing platform where her ship waited. She looked out at the fleet, at the thousands of vessels that represented humanity's defiance, humanity's determination, humanity's refusal to accept extinction. Marcus joined her, his face thoughtful. "Do you really think we can build something better with them? After everything that happened?" Elena considered the question carefully. "I do not know," she admitted. "But I know that we have to try. We did not fight this hard just to become the same kind of tyrants who tried to destroy us. We fought for the right to choose our own path, and that means choosing to be better than our enemies." She looked back at the council station, where 12 ancient species were coming to terms with a new reality. "Humanity has always been capable of terrible violence," she said. "But we have also been capable of incredible compassion, breathtaking creativity, and stubborn hope. Today we showed the galaxy our violence. Tomorrow, maybe we can show them everything else." The ship's engines hummed to life, carrying the human delegation back toward Earth, back toward a future that was uncertain but full of possibility. The Galactic Council had voted against Earth. It had been their last mistake. But perhaps, in the end, it would also be the beginning of something new, something better, something that neither humans nor aliens could have built alone. The universe would never be the same. And for once, that might be a good thing. Fleet Commander Krath stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Torvan Dreadnought Eternal Conquest, and stared at his sensor display with growing confusion. "This cannot be correct," he growled at his technicians. "Run the scan again." The scan came back with the same impossible results. "Commander," the sensor chief reported, his scales pale with shock. "We are detecting over 800 combat signatures emerging from behind the human moon. I do not understand how this is possible. Our intelligence indicated they had fewer than 50 vessels." Kraft's claws dug into the armrest of his command chair. How could such primitive creatures have built so many ships in such a short time? It defied everything he knew about technological development. But the evidence was undeniable. 800 human ships were accelerating toward his fleet, their engines burning like angry stars against the darkness of space. "It does not matter," Kraft said, forcing confidence into his voice. "They are still outnumbered almost 4 to 1. Their technology is still primitive. Victory is still assured." He opened a channel to the combined fleet. "All vessels, advance to attack formation. We will crush this human resistance and show them the price of defiance." 3,000 alien warships began to move, their crews certain of an easy victory. They had no idea what was about to hit them. Admiral Chen watched the enemy fleet approach on his tactical display, his face calm despite the fear that gnawed at his stomach. "All ships, execute Plan Fury," he ordered. "Iron Ghost squadrons, you have weapons free. Make them remember this day." The first wave of human ships were crewed entirely by uploaded consciousnesses, pilots who had sacrificed their human bodies to become something more, something terrifying. These ships accelerated at forces that would have killed any biological being, covering the distance between the fleets in minutes rather than hours. The aliens opened fire, their energy weapons painting space with deadly light. But the Iron Ghost ships danced through the beams with inhuman precision, their machine pilots processing information faster than any organic brain could manage. And then they reached the enemy fleet, and chaos erupted. The Iron Ghosts did not fight like any enemy the aliens had ever faced. They rammed their ships into enemy vessels at full speed, detonating antimatter charges at the moment of impact. They flew suicide missions without hesitation, knowing that their consciousness would simply upload to a new body back at Earth. They laughed as they died, and died, and died again. Kraft watched in horror as 200 of his ships vanished in the first 6 minutes of combat. "What kind of monsters are these?" he roared. "They throw their lives away like garbage." "Commander," his tactical officer stammered, "they are not dying. Our sensors show their consciousness signals transmitting back to Earth. They are uploading into new bodies. They can keep fighting forever." Before Kraft could respond, the second wave of human ships arrived, and these were even worse. Railgun platforms that had been hiding among the asteroids opened fire, sending streams of tungsten projectiles screaming through space at a significant fraction of light speed. At such velocities, the projectiles needed no explosives. They carried enough kinetic energy to punch through any shield, any armor, any defense the aliens had. Tovan cruisers, each one a marvel of million-year-old engineering, were torn apart like paper. Valkyrie carriers, protected by energy shields that had never been breached, exploded as railgun rounds passed through them like needles through cloth. "Return fire!" Kraft screamed. "Target their weapons platforms." But the humans had anticipated this. Their platforms were mobile, constantly shifting position, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. And while the aliens tried to track them, more human ships poured into the battle. Admiral Chen stood at the heart of the chaos, issuing orders with mechanical precision. "Third Fleet, target their command ships. Fourth Fleet, screen for their fighters. Iron Ghost Squadron 7, I need you to take out that dreadnought on the left flank." "With pleasure, Admiral," came the response. And Chen recognized the voice of Captain Wong, who had uploaded her consciousness 3 days ago after her biological body was killed in a training accident. She sounded almost happy as she guided her ship toward the enemy dreadnought. The battle raged for hours, then days. The aliens had numbers and technology, but humans had something they had never encountered: absolute refusal to surrender. Human ships fought until they were literally falling apart, their crews firing weapons with their last breath. When their weapons ran dry, they rammed their ships into enemy vessels. When their ships were destroyed, the survivors put on spacesuits and attacked with handheld weapons. It was madness. It was glorious. It was humanity at its most terrible and most beautiful. On the third day of battle, Fleet Commander Krath finally gave the order he had never imagined giving. All ships retreat. Fall back to the hyperspace corridor. We cannot win this fight. The surviving alien vessels turned and fled, leaving behind the wreckage of 1,800 ships and the bodies of millions of crew members. Human losses were staggering as well. Over 500 ships destroyed, tens of thousands dead. The Iron Ghost program pushed to its absolute limits. But they had won. Admiral Chun slumped in his command chair, exhaustion washing over him like a wave. Around him, his crew wept and cheered and hugged each other, unable to believe they were still alive. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving a transmission from the enemy flagship. Fleet Commander Krath wishes to speak with you." Chun straightened his uniform and composed his face. "Put him through." The reptilian face of Krath appeared on the view screen, and Chun was satisfied to see fear in those alien eyes. "Human," Krath spat, "you have won nothing. You have merely delayed the inevitable. The Galactic Council will send more ships, more weapons, more warriors. We will return with 10 times this force and burn your world to ashes." Chun smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. "Then we will be here waiting," he said. "And we will destroy that fleet too. And the fleet after that. And the fleet after that. Because that is what humans do, Commander. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We do not know how to lose." He leaned forward, his eyes burning with intensity. "Go back to your council and tell them what you saw here today. Tell them about the Iron Ghosts who cannot die. Tell them about weapons that can tear through their strongest shields. Tell them that humanity is coming, and we are very, very angry." Krath's image flickered and disappeared as the enemy fleet jumped to hyperspace. Chun turned to face his exhausted crew. "Get some rest, everyone. We won the battle, but the war is just beginning. I have a feeling things are about to get very interesting." Across the solar system, the survivors of the battle drifted among the wreckage, recovering bodies and salvaging technology. And in the hearts of 8 billion humans, something had changed. They had been afraid when the Council's ultimatum arrived. They had been desperate when they built their fleet. But now, having faced an enemy that should have destroyed them and emerged victorious, they were no longer afraid. They were angry, and an angry humanity, united in purpose and armed with weapons that could challenge the galaxy itself, was the most dangerous thing the universe had ever seen. The Council had wanted to neutralize Earth. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. Now it was time for that giant to show the galaxy exactly what it could do. The message from Ambassador Vasquez reached Earth at 3 in the morning, and by sunrise, the entire world knew that extinction was coming. President Maria Santos stood before the United Nations General Assembly, her face grim but her voice steady as steel. 30 days, she said, and the words echoed through the vast chamber where representatives from every nation on Earth sat in stunned silence. "We have 30 days before a fleet of 3,000 alien warships arrives in our solar system. 30 days before they demand we give up everything that makes us who we are. 30 days to decide whether humanity will kneel or stand." The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted in a dozen languages. Some wept openly. Others argued about surrender versus resistance. The noise was deafening. President Santos let them rage for exactly 60 seconds. Then she slammed her hand on the podium with a crack that silenced the room. "I did not come here to debate," she said, her eyes sweeping across the assembly. "I came here to tell you what we are going to do." She pressed a button and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing military installations, research facilities, and manufacturing plants across the globe. As of this moment, every nation on Earth is united under a single purpose: survival. There will be no more borders, no more politics, no more petty squabbling over resources and territory. We are one species, and we will fight as one. Admiral Chen Wei of the Chinese Navy, newly appointed as Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces, stepped forward to address the assembly. "Our current military fleet consists of 47 combat-capable vessels," he said, and gasps of despair filled the room. "Against 3,000 enemy warships, conventional tactics would result in our complete destruction within hours." He paused, letting the grim reality sink in, then smiled a wolf smile. "Which is why we will not be using conventional tactics." The displays changed to show blueprint after blueprint of weapons and ships that had never been built. Technologies that had been deemed too dangerous or too expensive or too insane to ever see the light of day. For decades, humanity's greatest minds have been designing weapons that we hope we would never need, Chun continued. Railguns that fire projectiles at a fraction of the speed of light. Antimatter warheads harvested from our own sun's magnetic field. Drone swarms controlled by artificial intelligence. Ships with no life support systems, crewed entirely by volunteers who have agreed to upload their consciousness into machine bodies. A British delegate raised his hand, his face pale. "You are talking about technology that does not exist. You cannot build all of this in 30 days. Chen's smile grew wider. "We cannot, but we can build it in 12. The display shifted again to show factories around the world already humming with activity. Workers flooded production lines that had been dormant for years. Scientists crowded into laboratories, fueled by coffee and desperation and pure human stubbornness. Every automobile factory is now producing ship components, Chun explained. Every electronics plant is building weapon systems. Every university has become a research center. And every person with hands to work is working. In Detroit, men and women who had spent their lives building cars now assembled hull plating for warships that would carry humanity's hopes into battle. In Tokyo, engineers who had designed video games now programmed targeting systems capable of tracking thousands of enemy vessels simultaneously. In Moscow, scientists who had studied theoretical physics now worked around the clock to improve the captured alien, technology that Elena had smuggled out before her ship was seized. In Mumbai, children too young to work in factories drew pictures of human ships defeating alien monsters, and those pictures were posted on walls everywhere as reminders of what everyone was fighting for. The world had never seen anything like it. Every rivalry, every grudge, every ancient hatred was set aside in the face of a common enemy. The American president worked alongside the Russian premier. Israeli engineers collaborated with Iranian scientists. North and South Korea opened their borders and shared resources freely. For the first time in human history, there were no nations, no religions, no races. There was only humanity united in defiance. And the weapons they built were terrible. In a secret facility beneath the Swiss Alps, a team of physicists created the first antimatter bomb, a weapon so powerful that a single gram of its payload could destroy an entire city. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, submarines converted into mobile factories produced millions of smart mines, each one capable of detecting enemy ships and attaching itself to their hulls before detonating. In orbit around the moon, volunteers lined up to undergo the consciousness upload procedure, sacrificing their human bodies to become living weapons that felt no pain and knew no fear. These volunteers were called the Iron Ghosts, And they would pilot ships designed for impossible maneuvers that would kill any biological pilot. They could accelerate at forces that would liquefy human flesh. They could fight for days without rest. They could die 1,000 deaths and simply upload into new bodies. Admiral Chun watched the progress reports with growing satisfaction. They were behind schedule in some areas, ahead in others, but overall, humanity was performing exactly as he had predicted. "Do you really think we can win?" asked Captain Sarah Wong, his second-in-command, as they reviewed the latest simulations. Chun shook his head. "I do not know if we can win, but I know we can hurt them. I know we can make them bleed. And I know that even if we lose, they will never forget the price they paid for attacking Earth." The days passed in a blur of activity and exhaustion. On day 5, the first new warship rolled off the assembly line, ugly and brutal and bristling with weapons that would have made the old Earth militaries weep with envy. On day 8, the railgun defense platforms around Earth fired their first test shots, sending tungsten rods screaming through space at velocities that made nuclear missiles look like thrown rocks. On day 10, the alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, and every sensor on Earth detected their arrival. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the command ship Victory, watching the enemy signatures multiply on his display. 3,147 contacts, his sensor officer reported, her voice tight with fear. "They are holding position near Neptune, probably scanning us." Chun nodded slowly. "Let them scan. Let them see what we have built. Let them wonder what kind of species could accomplish so much in so little time." He turned to address his crew, his voice carrying through speakers to every ship in the fleet, to every defense platform, to every iron ghost waiting in their mechanical bodies. 12 days ago, the Galactic Council voted to destroy us. They believed we were primitive animals who would crumble at the first sign of resistance. They believed they could frighten us into submission with their numbers and their technology. He paused, his jaw set with determination. Today, we show them how wrong they were. Today, we remind the universe why humanity has survived every disaster, every plague, every war that should have ended us. Today, we fight not just for our lives, but for our right to exist. 800 human ships powered up their engines and formed into battle groups. Railgun platforms locked on the distant targets. Antimatter missiles armed their warheads. And across the solar system, billions of people held their breath. The Council had given humanity 30 days. Humanity had needed only 12 to build an army. Now it was time to use it. Ambassador Elena Vasquez had never felt so small in her entire life. She stood in the center of a chamber that seemed to stretch forever in every direction. The walls were made of living crystal that hummed with ancient energy, and the ceiling rose so high that clouds actually formed near the top, drifting lazily in the artificial atmosphere that kept all 12 species comfortable at once. This was the Hall of Voices, the heart of the Galactic Council, where the fate of civilizations had been decided for longer than humans had existed as a species. Elena took a deep breath and looked around at the beings who would judge humanity's worth. They sat in floating platforms arranged in a massive circle around her, each platform holding representatives from species so old that Earth's sun had been young when they first traveled between stars. The Valkyrie delegation watched her with compound eyes that reflected light like broken mirrors. Their insectoid bodies clicked and chittered as they communicated in frequencies humans could barely hear, and their reputation for cold logic made them the unofficial leaders of the Council. Above them floated the Dramoth, beings of living gas contained within magnetic fields that shifted and swirled with colors Elena had no names for. They spoke in musical tones that her translation device struggled to interpret, and their ancient wisdom was legendary across 1,000 worlds. The Torvun sat heavily on their platform, massive reptilian creatures covered in scales the color of dried blood. They had conquered more worlds than any other species in galactic history, and their military power was matched only by their arrogance. 9 other species filled the remaining platforms, each one strange and alien and powerful beyond human imagination. Elena cleared her throat and activated her presentation. Holographic images of Earth appeared around her, showing blue oceans and green forests and cities that sparkled with light. Honored members of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice steady despite the fear that twisted in her stomach. I come before you as the representative of humanity, a young species that has only recently discovered the wonders of faster-than-light travel. She gestured, and the images changed to show human history. Cave paintings gave way to ancient temples, which gave way to medieval castles, which gave way to modern cities reaching toward the sky. We know that we are young compared to your great civilizations. We know that our technology is primitive and our experience is limited. But we come to you today with open hearts and open hands, seeking only the chance to prove ourselves worthy of joining the galactic community. The Valkyrie High Arbiter, a creature named Gentol, whose title had been passed down through his genetic line for 50,000 years, made a small clicking sound that her translator interpreted as mild interest. Elena took this as encouragement and continued with growing passion. Humanity has faced countless challenges in our short history. We have survived ice ages that covered our world in frozen death. We have survived plagues that killed half our population. We've survived wars that threatened to destroy us completely. She showed images of human triumph. Doctors developing vaccines, engineers building bridges across impossible gaps, astronauts taking their first steps on the moon. And through all of this suffering, we never gave up. We never stopped reaching for something better. We never stopped believing that tomorrow could be brighter than today. The images shifted to show human art and music and literature. The Mona Lisa smiled her mysterious smile. Orchestras filled concert halls with beautiful sound. Children laughed and played in parks full of flowers. We offer you our creativity, our passion, our endless drive to explore and discover and grow. We offer you trade partnerships and cultural exchange and the friendship of a species that values loyalty above all else. Elena paused and looked around at the alien faces watching her. She could not read their expressions, could not tell if her words were reaching them at all, but she pressed on regardless. All we ask in return is protected status under the Galactic Compact, the right to exist as a sovereign species, to develop at our own pace, to make our own mistakes and learn from them. We ask for the chance that every species in this chamber was once given, the chance to prove that we belong among the stars. She finished her presentation and stood in silence, her heart pounding so loudly she was certain the Dramath could hear it. High Arbiter Gentle rose from his seat, his chitinous body unfolding like a terrible flower. When he spoke, his voice was translated into flat, emotionless words that filled the chamber. The Council thanks the human representative for her presentation. We will now deliberate on the matter of Earth's petition. Please wait in the diplomatic quarters until we reach a decision. Elena bowed respectfully and allowed the guards to escort her from the chamber. As the massive crystal doors closed behind her, she caught one last glimpse of the council members already turning to speak with each other in low voices. She was taken to a small but comfortable room where she spent the next several hours pacing back and forth. Her aide, a young man named Marcus Chen, whose uncle happened to be an admiral in Earth's small fleet, brought her food and drink that she barely touched. "How do you think it went?" Marcus asked, trying to hide his own nervousness behind a professional mask. Elena shook her head and continued pacing. "I do not know. I truly do not know. They are so hard to read, so different from us in every way. I gave them everything I had, but I cannot tell if any of it mattered." What Elena did not know, what she could not possibly know, was that the Council's decision had been made long before she ever entered the Hall of Voices. In the chamber she had just left, the 12 species were not debating whether to grant humanity protected status. They were debating something far more terrible. The Torvan representative, a scarred old warrior named Krath, who had personally overseen the subjugation of dozens of species, leaned forward and addressed his colleagues. "Did you see the fire in her eyes?" he growled, his translator giving his words a harsh mechanical edge. "Did you hear the way she spoke of surviving wars and plagues and disasters? This is not a species that accepts defeat. This is a species that fights until the very end." Gentle clicked in agreement. Our analysis of human history supports this observation. They developed nuclear weapons within decades of achieving powered flight. They have spent more of their existence at war than at peace. They are, by any reasonable measure, dangerously aggressive. A Dramoth elder pulsed with concerned colors. But they also create such beautiful art. Surely that suggests a capacity for peace and cooperation. It suggests nothing of the kind, Krath snapped back. Many dangerous species have created art. It does not make them less dangerous. It simply makes them more unpredictable. The debate continued, but the outcome was never in doubt. One by one, the 12 species reached the same conclusion. Humanity was not simply primitive. Humanity was a threat, and threats had to be dealt with before they could grow strong enough to cause real damage. In her diplomatic quarters, Elena finally stopped pacing and sat down with a heavy sigh. She looked out the window at the strange alien stars and thought about her home, about the billions of people waiting to hear if they had a future among those stars. "Whatever happens," she said quietly to Marcus, "we gave it our best shot. That has to count for something." She had no idea how wrong she was, or how little her best shot had mattered to beings who had decided humanity's fate before she spoke a single word. The vote would come soon, and with it, the beginning of the end, or perhaps the end of the beginning. The message arrived 3 days after Elena's presentation, delivered by a Velkari official whose compound eyes showed no emotion whatsoever. Elena and Marcus stood in the diplomatic quarters, watching as the holographic seal of the Galactic Council appeared before them. The seal spun slowly, its 12 symbols representing the 12 ruling species, and then it dissolved to reveal the face of High Arbiter Gentle. Ambassador Vasquez, the insectoid leader, began, his translated voice as flat and cold as frozen metal. "The Galactic Council has reached a unanimous decision regarding Earth's petition for protected status." Elena felt her heart leap with hope. Unanimous meant all 12 species had agreed. Surely that was a good sign. After careful consideration of your species' history, capabilities, and potential trajectory, Gentle continued, "The Council has voted to deny Earth's request." The words hit Elena like a physical blow. She actually stumbled backward, and Marcus had to catch her arm to keep her from falling. "Denied?" she whispered, her voice cracking with disbelief. "But why? What did we do wrong?" Gentle's mandibles clicked in what might have been satisfaction. "You did nothing wrong, Ambassador. You simply are what you are. And what you are is unacceptable to this council." The hologram expanded to show documents and data files, all stamped with official council seals. Human history reveals a pattern of extreme violence and aggression. Your species has been at war with itself for nearly your entire existence. You developed weapons capable of destroying your own world within decades of achieving basic flight. Your entertainment glorifies conflict and combat. Your very biology is designed for hunting and killing. Elena tried to protest, but Gentle raised a chitinous limb to silence her. Furthermore, your rate of technological advancement is deeply concerning. Species typically take thousands of years to progress from primitive combustion engines to faster-than-light travel. Humanity accomplished this in less than 2 centuries. Such rapid advancement, combined with your aggressive nature, presents an unacceptable risk to galactic stability. Marcus stepped forward, his face red with anger. So you are punishing us for being successful? For working hard and achieving great things? We are protecting the galaxy from a clear and present danger, Gentle replied calmly. Which brings me to the second part of the Council's decision. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. There was more? In accordance with Article 7 of the Galactic Compact, the Council has authorized preemptive neutralization protocols for the Sol system. The words hung in the air like a death sentence, because that was exactly what they were. What does that mean? Elena demanded, though she was terrified she already knew the answer. A combined fleet of 3,000 warships from 6 member species has been dispatched to your home system, Gentle explained, his tone suggesting he was discussing nothing more important than the weather. They will establish a permanent blockade around Earth and deliver the following terms. Humanity will immediately surrender all spacefaring technology, all advanced weapon systems, and all research related to faster-than-light travel. Your species will be confined to your planet's surface permanently. Any attempt to leave Earth will be met with immediate destruction. Elena's legs gave out and she collapsed into a chair. 3,000 warships. Earth's entire fleet numbered less than 50 vessels, and most of those were exploration ships with minimal armament. And if we refuse? She asked, already knowing the answer. Then the fleet will proceed with the sterilization of your planet, Gentle said, and there was something almost like pleasure in his alien voice. Every human being will be eliminated, and Earth will be declared a quarantine zone for the next 1,000,000 years. The choice, Ambassador, is simple. Submit to permanent confinement or face extinction. The hologram flickered, and Krath the Torvan appeared beside Gentle, his reptilian face twisted in a cruel smile. I argued for immediate sterilization, Krath growled. Dangerous animals should be put down, not caged. But my colleagues insisted on giving you a chance to prove you can be tamed. Personally, I hope you refuse the terms. I have not witnessed a proper cleansing in centuries. Elena stared at the 2 aliens, her shock slowly transforming into something else, something harder and colder. You have 30 of your planetary rotations to comply, Gentle concluded. The fleet will arrive in your system within 10 rotations. Use your remaining time wisely, Ambassador. This will be humanity's final decision. The hologram disappeared, leaving Elena and Marcus alone in the suddenly silent room. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Marcus slammed his fist against the wall with a cry of rage and frustration. This is insane, he shouted. We came to them in peace. We offered them friendship. And they respond by threatening to wipe us out. Elena stood slowly, her legs still unsteady, but her mind racing faster than it ever had before. They are afraid of us, she said quietly, and there was wonder in her voice. Do you understand what that means, Marcus? 12 species that have ruled the galaxy for millions of years, species with technology we can barely comprehend, and they are afraid of little humanity. Marcus stopped his angry pacing and stared at her. How can you possibly find comfort in that? They are going to destroy us. Elena walked to the window and looked out at the alien stars, the same stars she had gazed at with such hope just days ago. They think they are, she said, and a smile began to form on her face, small at first, but growing with each passing second. They think they have already won. They think we will crumble and surrender the moment their fleet arrives. She turned back to Marcus, and her eyes were blazing with a fire he had never seen before. But they made a mistake, Marcus. A terrible, terrible mistake. What mistake? Marcus asked, confused by her sudden change in attitude. They told us their plan, Elena said. They gave us 30 days. They showed us exactly what we are up against. And they underestimated the one thing that makes humanity dangerous. Which is? Elena's smile became something fierce, something almost predatory. We do not know how to quit. We have never known how to quit. For all of human history, every time the universe has knocked us down, we have gotten back up and punched it in the face. She grabbed Marcus by the shoulders. We need to get a message to Earth immediately. We need to tell them what is coming. We need to wake up every scientist, every engineer, every soldier, every single person who has ever dreamed of fighting for something bigger than themselves. Marcus nodded slowly, catching her fire. My uncle commands the Third Fleet. He will know what to do. Good, Elena said, already moving toward the communication console. The Council thinks they have sentenced us to death. But all they have really done is united 8 billion people against a common enemy. She began typing rapidly, encoding a message that would travel faster than light to reach Earth before the invasion fleet. They wanted to see how dangerous humanity can be, she said, her fingers flying across the controls. Then let us show them. Let us show them what happens when you back a human into a corner. The message went out, carrying with it the news that would change everything. And far away, in the cold depths of space, 3,000 warships continued their journey toward Earth. Their crews confident in their overwhelming superiority, never imagining that they were flying straight into the teeth of the most stubborn, spiteful, and creative species the galaxy had ever produced. The countdown had begun, and humanity had 30 days to do the impossible. 29 days later, the universe would learn that impossible was just another word humans had learned to ignore.